All right, so my service site is Heroes. Um, Heroes, just a little background information. Heroes serves special needs students across the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It doesn't have a certain, public school district that it pulls from. It's a private institution. It provides education to special needs students, mostly adult special needs students who need it. The way that they structure their education system is they engage in scheduled, meaningful activities daily, whether that is going to a food pantry to serve, bowling, going outside to a park, just making their own lunches, watching movies, spending time with each other, playing sports, just ways that really enriches their life. My role at this service site at Heroes is assisting teachers and ensuring that the students are on task and are comfortable in their situation. And there's the address. So site is the physical characteristics of a place. Heroes not is not very well known, so there isn't much information on the internet uh, as far as photos are concerned of the place. It is, as you'll see on the next slide, right behind a church, and it's using one of the spare rooms of the church. So I couldn't really find any good pictures of the place itself, but I did create this nifty little I guess you could say a blueprint of the site. So site is physical characteristics of a place. So right in front, you've got the parking lot. It's a large parking lot that is for both the church and Heroes. And then you've got a front door. Right behind the front door is the front desk, where the coordinator receptionist works. To the right, down a small hallway, is a restroom for both male and female students and teachers. And then you have three classrooms lined up along the west side of the building. Classroom 3 is the largest because it hosts students that require wheelchairs. And the rooms are divided based on each student's needs, based on the varying degrees of their disabilities. So there are three classrooms, and then down this main hallway, there's a game room, which has various games like skee ball on the north side, a stage where they do Zumba and put on shows on the east side, and then a pop-a-shot basketball machine on the south end of the room. And then if you can continue walking down the hallway, there's a kitchen with a pantry, a small pantry. The kitchen has one long table, one long rectangular table where students make their lunches. And then outside the back door, there is a small patio with about 4 outside benches, a jungle gym, and a grill. The grill is a older version of a green egg, and yeah, so that is the physical characteristics of Heroes. So situation is the location of Heroes relative to notable places around it. And so Heroes is located just west of the intersection at Coit and Arapahoe. At that intersect, just south of Heroes, is the church I was talking about, Nema Gospel Church. And then if you go east of Heroes, there is a large group of stores at that intersection. There's a Walmart, a Chick-fil-A, and then if you go northeast about a mile, J.J. Pierce High School is about a mile northeast of Heroes. And if you can continue on that direction, you'll reach UTD, as seen in the map. And then far southwest of Heroes is Jesuit. 75, it is east or west of 75, north of 635, in between Addison and Richardson. So now starting the first real demographic parts of Heroes. Age and gender. So the Heroes technically serves any age student, but the students are mostly 20 to 40 years old. Just based on, as you'll see in the last slide or slide, in the future, there is a need for prior education. So 20 to 40 years old are most of their students. With the surrounding zip code of 75248, the age range is a little older than that, around 45 to 55. So people around their midlife. Gender, Heroes is approximately 60% male students, but the staff is much more female than that. And then the surrounding zip code, as it says, is 51% female. And in this graph, you can see the distribution of resident ages in this zip code. And I do want to preface the zip code in saying that students in Heroes are not only from the zip code. They do pull a lot of kids from the zip code, from the surrounding area. But like I said, it pulls students from all across DFW. So these slides are really going to highlight the contrast in the demographic between the zip code of 75248 and Heroes itself. Income levels. So Heroes makes it very clear on the website that they cater to any student, regardless of financial need. They'll do their best to make it so the student has access to a good education. Whereas the income levels in the surrounding zip code 75248 are much higher than the average state income, and even higher than that state national income. It's about 115,000 per individual, which is more than 50K over the average state income, as you can see in this chart right here that was taken from city data. So even compared to DFW and even Texas, this zip code is a very affluent area. So this slide will highlight the demographics, employment, and handicap status. So of course, talking about handicaps at Heroes, all students at Heroes do have some sort of physical or mental handicap, and the severity of that handicap changes based on which classes they're in. There are classes that the students are more independent, and then there are classes where each student has an aide because they are more handicapped than others. Whereas in the surrounding zip code, while there's no data of handicaps, you can assume or infer, because of the affluence of the community, that it suggests that there's a low disability rate. And then talking about employment, most students at Heroes are unemployed, but some do have part-time jobs. Some work at Howdy Homemade, some work at the YMCA, whereas in the surrounding zip code, it has 3.2% unemployment rate, very low, lower than the natural rate of unemployment. And that again speaks to the affluence of that community. And then right here, you can just see a nice little picture of some of the kids or some of the students at Heroes on one of their field trips. So when talking about the race and education of the students, Hero students are primarily white, a smaller portion of Black and Hispanic students. This generally matches the demographic of the surrounding zip code, which is, as you can see in the graph, a majority white students with with notable Hispanic, Black, and Asian minority portions of their community. And then when talking about education, like I said earlier, all students of Heroes come having received some sort of lower education, whether that is through their public school district or through some private system. But all students, this is a school you have to apply to, and you have to have some sort of earlier education to come to Heroes. I know that some students have gone to the Highland Park High School and gone in their program for special needs students. Some students go to another school in North Dallas that's private, So yeah, it really varies with the way that these students get education prior to Heroes. And then in the surrounding zip code 75248, the education levels are very, very high. 96% have graduated from high school, uh, more than half from a four-year college, and a fourth of the population has graduated from graduate school. So this again speaks to the affluence of that community, as education levels is closely related to wealth. And now getting into the human geography principle that is notable to my location. There aren't too many because it's hard to talk about migration and agriculture because it's not a farm. People aren't traveling terribly far. But I did notice one thing in the one notable uh, concept is central place theory when talking about the urbanization. Um, and when I was thinking about the field trips that we went on as students, you can see my classmate Brady Kinzer with one of the students at the school on a field trip at a park. And I thought, I wonder why we chose Mimosa Park. That was the park that we frequented the most. You see this red orange dot right here is Heroes, the campus of Heroes. And I wondered why we chose Mimosa Park, because I know that Richardson has a lot of other parks to offer around it. And then when I realized that there are so many uh, parks and how central place theory worked with that. And so you can see I've roughly drawn with these black lines the the range for the parks. So as you can see, Mimosa Park, Heroes is right on the cusp of Hillcrest Village Green Park and Mimosa Park, along with Salado Park, this green dot right here, and Frets Park. And I think the reason I believe that Heroes chooses Mimosa Park over the others is because of the quality of Mimosa Park. It's a much better park. And so when you are faced with similar distance, then it comes down to quality of what service you're receiving. And so now to talk a little bit more about central place theory. Central place theory is the idea that people, businesses or services are supported by a certain population, and the amount of people in that population that frequent that location determines how wide the market area is for that location. So the range for parks is relatively small, because parks must be convenient and readily available, specifically because they target a younger age group. And so younger age groups, they're not going to be able to drive. They're not going to be able to commute long distances to get to a park. So parks are going to be, there's going to be multiple parks in each neighborhood. And as you can see in this very densely populated area of Richardson, there are a lot of parks. This is maybe roughly 4 square miles, and you can see there are over 10 parks. And you can see they're roughly equidistant, while the individual squares or shapes um, may not be perfectly set up. They are roughly equidistant, and you can see how each park pulls a certain area, has a certain market area that they appeal to based on location. And that the threshold is smaller for parks because they're in a more densely populated area. And the reason that that range and threshold can be smaller is because there's a high number of children in this area. As we saw in the earlier slide, there's over 200 residents per age group around this 0 to 10 age range, which is what these parks are going to be wanting to target. And that's just in this zip code. But you can assume that there will be similar data for the surrounding zip codes. So since there is a good portion of children in the population, the market area will be smaller. And then another field trip that we often went on was to a bowling alley. Here's a picture of some of the students at a bowling alley. And I saw similar trends in the bowling alley market areas. But the key difference in bowling alleys is that the range and threshold for bowling alleys is going to be a lot larger than that for a park. primarily because more people can support a bowling alley, are needed to support a bowling alley because less people go to bowling alleys and less often than they do a park. There are more people needed to support that one bowling alley, and if there's a more densely populated area, that is gonna force there to be more bowling alleys in that area. So you see up around Heroes, this orange dot right here in this densely populated area, there's a few, they're more spread out. AMF is the bowling alley that Heroes goes to, but they're more closely compact because there is it's such a densely populated area. And then again, down near Highland Park, there's going to be some densely populated areas, but then up near Lake Louisville, where there still is a lot of people living, but it's going to be less densely populated. You can see that this distance is large. This distance is larger between the two, so that market area is going to be even larger than for bowling alleys in highly populated areas. And yep, that's the end of my presentation. I hope it was informative, and that is Heroes.